But technology has really affected our business as we've gone. Computers and now AI. The amount of information that is out there that you can tap into using a lot of these different tools is so far superior to what we had when we started.
Welcome back to Talent Hunters, powered by MRINetwork, where each week we talk with the world's top talent strategists and executive recruiters. If you want to build talented teams that drive your company to big goals and big growth, then this podcast is for you. And now, let's join the conversation with today's episode of Talent Hunters.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vince Holt, the host of Talent Hunters. And today we have the legendary Jeff Noble, the CEO for Management Recruiters of Dayton, Ohio. Jeff has been in the business for 42 years. This is my first time entertaining somebody that's been here longer than I have. Currently, Jeff's office is ranked in the top 50, which is a testament in itself. But the one thing that really stands out to me about Jeff is that every year he has been giving of himself in some way to help MRI to be better than it was yesterday. It could be the decades he spent on the rep council, or even the committees that he's participated in throughout his career. It is truly a testament to the statement of giving back. Congratulations and welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you very much.
What I'd like to start out by doing in this particular one is to give our audience a little bit of a Reader's Digest of Jeff Noble's history. Tell us a bit about your background, where you came from 42 years ago, and what got you to where you are today.
Okay. Well, way back around the time they invented fire, I was graduating from college, and my degree is in communications, and I had an idea. I wanted to be a disc jockey, and looked at that and other things, but I wound up actually being the marketing manager for Champion International's credit union in Hamilton, Ohio. And it was there that I met my wife, Stephanie. Well, they had a rule there that husbands and wives could not both be employed. So one of us was going to need to go find a job. And my parents, Joel and Elaine Noble, had started this business in 1970. They pulled me out of Buffalo, New York, made me move to Dayton, Ohio in the middle of high school. And they even after college sent me to new owners training class, right? Corporate said I could come in and do that. So I went and I got done with the training class, said, no, I don't think that's really what I want to do with my life, and went off to become marketing director at credit union. And when Stephanie and I got married, they said, come on, why don't you give it a try? And you know, in those days, I hate to admit it was just easier than going out and interviewing, right? I said, okay, I will give it a try. But, you know, I'd heard stories about the business from about the time I was 14 years old. So I came and went through new training. And in those days, I don't know if you remember it, it was like the slide machine and the technology then was so cool. We had this thing called a fax machine, which was brand new at the time. Went through training. I worked on a desk for 4 or 5 years doing pharmaceutical sales and whatnot. I was an okay recruiter, not great at it. But what I found that I was really good at was more facilitation. At that point, this cool thing called the IBM AT came around, right? Do you remember one of those? And we got this IBM AT computer for our office, which was, you know, I think that's like $10,000 in those days. And really, all it was an electronic file box. But my job was to get every candidate that we had into this electronic file box. There was one of them, and it was there. But really, it was the start of computerization in the office. at the time. I can even remember at one point we had one computer, like email was now becoming popular. We had one computer, so everybody had to go in to this one computer and check their email. And also at this time, we had a lot. Remember, in those days, Vince, it cost $1 million a minute, right, to make long distance phone calls. So you worked your local market, and we had a lot of local clients say, "Hey, do you temps? We need temps. Can you help us with temporary employees?" We really didn't do it, and at that point, contractually with MRI, you weren't supposed to. But we talked to Alan Schoenberg, and Alan said, it's not really great business, but if you want to do it, go ahead. So I, in addition to starting Computerize the Office, I started a temp help division in Dayton, Ohio. And so between those two things, got very busy. And as my parents moved towards retirement, I took over more and more of the management part of the office. And you remember Jerry Kotler. Jerry and I became partners in the business. And he was basically, he would work with recruiters, right, managing them. And I took care of the temp side of the business and all the administrative functions and everything else. And at that point, you remember regional meeting days, right? And then in those days, the reps didn't do the meetings. They said, we need somebody to volunteer to run a meeting for us. Why I raised my hand, I have no clue. No clue at all. So I ran the regional meeting. You get to know more and more owners. The next thing you know, I'm getting elected to the rep council. And so got really involved in corporate in those days. And, while certainly you were giving back, you learned tons. I learned so much about the business and made so many friends, including you, through that involvement with corporate. And, mentors and people who are lifelong friends now that I learned and met them. And, we spent a lot of years on there. I got elected chair of the council, and you know what that's like because you were in the same role. Did that for 15 years and still continue to be on committees and whatnot. And suddenly here I am today, 42 years later. And it's hard to believe. It seems like a blip in a way. But the goal is I'm going to retire at the end of the year.
Well, congratulations on that. Retirement is a funny thing. It's something we look at. Some people work towards it. Some people aren't sure what to do with it. And there's some people that are afraid of it. What's your position towards retirement?
That's a great question because I'll be 69 years old in August. And I don't feel 69. And I certainly probably could continue at this. And there's part of me that's going to miss it as, Bob, who's going to be taking over my office. I see the excitement in terms of what they're doing and what he and the team are talking about building. And it's like, oh, wait, I won't be there. And so I'm going to I will miss a lot of that. But I also think that there's a right time to walk away. And I think this is the time for me. The business continues to be successful. I know Bob and his staff will even take it to greater levels. But it's time. There's a lot I want to do. Stephanie and I want to travel. So I have some trepidation about it. But it's time.
Well, you got a great hobby. You're playing the guitar wherever you go.
Well, that I still do, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So going back to the office itself, and obviously your legacy is going to carry on, but why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of MRI Dayton and the primary services that you guys do offer today, because they've evolved over the years.
Yeah, certainly have. And I talked about getting into the temp business. We built a pretty good temp business, but again, that changed. And I made the determination to exit that business, and we were paring it down. Then COVID showed up, and I kind of finished it off. And we were fine with that because we really wanted to focus more on the permanent staffing piece of the business, more the direct hire. Nowadays, our main industry is the automotive industry. We work with a lot of tier 1, tier 2 automotive companies, a lot of Japanese companies, but we've evolved out of that. When we started in the business, like I said, it was a local business. So you did business with every kind of company there was because they were in your backyard. Now, in those days, GM had a huge presence in Dayton. So we certainly got our feet wet in the automotive business. So Bob had several years as plant manager before he came to work for us here in the automotive world. So that really is our main business. But and we place mid-management level on up to the C-suite. We do some individual contributors really across any function within the organization: human resources, quality, health and safety, plant managers, operations, manufacturing, engineering. Probably the only area that we don't hit is IT. We don't know a whole lot about the IT world, but any other functions within an organization. We are mainly working at upper levels, though, as we progressed, and a lot of that is because clients have grown with us. It's kind of unique, and Bob is the person. I mean, he knows so many people anymore. We are constantly getting calls. We need this, we need that. It's a good position to be in this industry. So mainly we're working at those levels, but as an offshoot, because we were in so many things, we have a client in the chemical industry. It's not really automotive, although they do make some automotive related products. We have a client that makes shopping carts, for gosh sakes, but it's on wheels, right? And it's similar processes. So we do some general manufacturing with other companies that do similar processes to what we know.
What I've been fascinated with in this business is that when you and I started in this business, it wasn't about the industry you worked in. It was the skill of recruiting and how to be not only just a professional, but how to get the results, both from the clients as well as the candidates. And your description of what you're doing right now really describes your basic training from the very beginning. Is I can go into any industry I want to go into, but I will never change how I do this business. And that's the value you learned. And I think it's great that you've taught your people in that same vein. So tell us a little bit about Bob Snyder, the person that ultimately is going to be taken over and is really carrying the mail right now in a very visible place.
Yeah, absolutely. He is the leader in the office. That this is true. Bob came out of the automotive industry. He was, he was probably in his 30s, and he's a plant manager for a company that I believe they made batteries. I don't remember for sure, but automotive related, GM related. He worked his way through college working at GM in the factory. So understands the business very, very well. And you probably heard him tell the story too, because in that industry, he was working ungodly hours. He had really no personal life at all. So he decided he wanted to try something different. And so he actually went to work, and he was selling life insurance, still working nights, right? Making calls at nights and doing things like that. And he decided maybe that's not quite the right thing. He came in and met with Jerry Kotler. You remember Jerry? And about finding the next position. And Jerry actually sent him out to a few places and got some offers. But Jerry said to him, maybe you ought to think about being a recruiter. The story. No one goes to college or thinks about a career as a recruiter. So like a lot of other people, he kind of stumbled into the business, and it was first year. He was putting in the activity. He led the office in phone time and activity, but things weren't hitting. He wasn't making deals. This would happen and that. And Jerry and I took him to lunch one day, and he thought we were going to fire him. Well, I told him later, we don't take you to lunch and spend money. We're going to fire you. But we just wanted him to know he was doing the right things. Keep doing them. It would happen. And it's taken off. His third year in the business, I think it was his third year, he made pace setter. He has been pace setter every year now. He's in 24 years with us. And he's grown with the business. And as I say, he leads the office. The team working with him is learning so much from him. And that's why I say when he takes over, I think they're going to do great things.
Oh, wonderful. What a great pedigree. He comes from hard work, discipline, stick-to-itiveness, don't quit. Good for him. I mean, that's a testament to the environment you've created in there, Jeff. You've been at it for 4 decades.
Oh, God. That sounds like a long time.
What have you seen, and it's coming faster in the last 2 decades, but what have you seen in the changes that you think have been valuable to your office in recruiting?
Well, technology has certainly made a huge difference from all of us. I, make the joke about the fax machine being the cool thing that you had. And in those days, a lot of people didn't even have answering machines on their phone. They had to pick it up, or it was just going to ring and make noise. But technology has really affected our business as we've gone. Computers and now AI. The amount of information that is out there that you can tap into using a lot of these different tools is so far superior to what we had when we started. And, in those days, the only way you could find people is by asking other people. And that's the one source to identify people, and to be creative. And now it's easier to identify who at least name and title that you're looking for. There are, good tools to get in touch with them. But when you and I started, there was one tool that we believed in, and that tool is still here. And that's the telephone, right? Now, those days you couldn't call Europe. Well, you could, but it cost a lot of money. Now we do Zoom calls with Europe. And so, technology has opened up the world to us. We've placed people and helped companies all over the United States and in Europe and in Mexico. And technology has made that easier to do for all of us.
Yeah, it really has. And I think you alluded to kind of a pet peeve of mine is technology is phenomenal. It's a great tool, but the best way to be successful in this business is pick up the telephone and dial it.
That is still the best tool, Vince, that we have. All of the technology is great for finding people and perhaps getting them to notice you, but the whole goal of technology is to get them on the phone. I've heard it said that in life, the 3 most emotional things somebody goes through in their life is death of a loved one, marriage, and job change. And in order to help somebody do that, you really need to get to know them and understand them. And it takes conversation. And so the phone is still the most important tool we have.
So let's dive a little deeper into that from the standpoint of gaining and earning the trust of a candidate. What's the philosophy that you've led your team in believing?
Good. Well, and it's really not my philosophy. It came before from Jerry Kotler, right? And he used to call them, do you remember the old tape called bonding nuggets, right? The ability to bond with people is so important. It's not about us. It's about the candidate and what's important to them and what's important to your client. And asking the right questions and noticing things and saying, "Hey, Vince, I really like your shirt," something to be able to bond with you so that we open up lines of communication. Because at the end of the day, what's most important, if you're a candidate I'm trying to help, what are your goals? What is it? What's important to you? I need to know a lot about you to make sure that an opportunity I have is right. Because last thing I want to do is waste your time and send you in, or have you even consider a job that's not right for you. So it's got to be all about them. And in the same token, on the other side of the coin, the companies we work with, we've got to find the right people who fit that culture, what they're looking for. And so understanding them, if the first candidate we sent in is not the correct candidate, what is it that we're missing? What can we do? Where can we look? Technology, email, and texting just isn't good enough for that, at least not for me. You've got to be able to ask those questions and react to an individual.
So what differentiates MRI Dayton from all the other recruiters that play in your dig?
I think it's that. I think it's important to us that I've heard a lot of people say at the end of the day, you can make a lot of money being a recruiter, but if money is the only thing you're interested in, there's a lot of other jobs you can go do that make good money and are probably easier than this. You're dealing with an individual. You're dealing with their life, and you're there to help them, both on the client and the candidate side. You want companies find them the right person to help grow and prosper. That helps them. And you want to help that candidate, if it's the right career move for that individual, that they're going to make more money, the career path is better, greater future for their family and themselves. And you got to make sure the candidate feels that way. And it's important that they know that they can say no, and we're not going to get mad at them. We're going to understand. We might question a few things that make sure that they have all the information. But at the end of the day, you've got to respect they're human beings on both sides, their decisions. And okay, I get it. Let's move on. And I'll tell you a story that a big win for us, similar kind of situation. We had a candidate who we had him out for an HR position, and it was moving down the road pretty well. But he had gotten another offer from another company that he felt was a better move for him. And said, "We get it. We understand. Congratulations. Good luck." About 6 months later, that individual called us, Vince, and said, "I'm at my new company and I need a good recruiter. You guys were so great the way you dealt with me. I want that to be you." The last year and a half, we've placed almost 20 people with that company.
Oh my gosh. Great job. Great job.
And we truly feel this way. If it's not the right move for them, we don't want it to happen.
Yeah, we support people that way too. I mean, I've been asked in similar situation where actually the company I was recruiting a director of engineering out of the chairman of the board came down to the human resource office and said, "Listen, Mike, I can't change your boss. I can't give you any more money, and I can't give you a different position. But I can give you 300 shares of our company stock, and it was traded publicly at $35 a share, if you'll stay with me one more year." Mike didn't give him an answer. Mike said, "Let me talk to my wife." And on his way home, he called me and asked me what he should do. And I told Mike, I says, "Look," I says, "you can't walk away from that much money. You just can't walk away from it." one more year. You didn't have to leave because of anything threatening you, but you can. The only thing I advise you to do is make sure you get it in writing. Mike accepted the counteroffer, didn't get it in writing, and like you, called me a little different, called me 4 months later saying he'd been let go, and he didn't get the stock. But he respected the fact that I wasn't trying to make a buck, if you understand exactly like what you were talking about. I wasn't trying to make a buck. I was really looking out for him. And that's what cemented or bonded that relationship.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, I want to talk a little bit, because you're experiencing something that I was on the other end of the scale of, and that is you're retiring and handing the office off to your superstar. And I was on the other side of that. And what I'd like to do is cover a little bit of what you would advise somebody, or secrets you'd give somebody that was in your shoes, thinking of that transition to one of their people today, because clearly it's going smoothly for you guys.
The best piece of advice that I can give is just be open about everything. I have pretty much, Bob can look at my financials. Bob can, he'll ask me any questions, and the same thing from his standpoint. He keeps me in the loop about what's going on, including he's actually been, because people know that I'm retiring and stuff, and a couple of people actually tried to recruit him. So, but it's just like being on the same page. We have the same goal. My goal is to a smooth transition for him to get the business started, and a smooth transition for me out. And he knows after, December 31st, if there's anything he needs, he'll call me and I'll help. I've been glad to do it. But just easing the transition, it would be easy because in here and, just leave me alone and do whatever, no, I want this to be right for him. There's a company legacy that I hadn't even thought about, but that he thought about as he transitioned. He's going to rebrand the company, but he doesn't want to lose that 50 plus years that this company has been here. He wants to keep that legacy going, which I appreciate. But I think the advice is just be honest and open, and put everything on the table, and then the transition becomes very easy.
Have there been any surprises that have come up to you that, I wish I would have known that ahead of time? Not that it would have changed you, but that you could have better prepared for?
In terms of him. Like they were talking, and helping Bob?
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, Vince, because again, as we go through the transition, I have my job that I look at it in the last 7 months that I'm going to be here is to facilitate that. That's my main goal. We could have started the process earlier, I guess, but we're moving along pretty well. And I think we're right on track with everything. There's probably something, but I'm not sure what that is at this point.
Oh, that's fair. How about the rest of your team?
They're excited. I think they truly are excited about it. Making sure that they're in the loop and understand what's happening as well is important, because, questions arise, what's going to go on. In addition to rebranding, we're downtown, and Bob's wife is going to probably work in the business a little bit, and they're going to move the office south of town, and they're all talking about pitching in and helping. And I think they're excited about it.
That's great to hear, Jeff. Boy, you've done such a fabulous job. I mean, when I was on the rep council, you are absolutely a role model for me on how to deal with it. It was actually you and GW from the standpoint of understanding not only the role of the rep, but understanding what the chair of the rep, because you were the one that came to me and said, this needs to be you in the next session when you step down.
I told you, you have to know the right time to move on. And for me at that point, I remember sitting there I think we were in some exotic spot. I don't remember having breakfast outside. And I said, Vince, I've been doing this for 5 years, and I think it's, time for me to move on. And I think you'd be the right guy.
Well, you encapsulated it perfect. It's been an incredible education. It was. I remember GW saying, the chairperson, this is a time to shut up. This is a time when your opinion doesn't matter. It's a time for you to facilitate. And when he said that, it gave me the opportunity to reflect on you as my chair. And that's exactly how you ran it. And I thank you for that. You were a perfect role model in that.
You're welcome. When they asked me to run, it was Gary Miller who said, we think you're the right guy. I looked at him and said, no, what do you mean? Me, not me. But, it was the right role for me at the time, because I think that's one of the things I do best is facilitate. Find good people, facilitate, but stay out of their way as much as you can.
And you've demonstrated that in your office, Jeff. And I want to thank you for taking the time out today to spend with us, educating us on your future, on your office's future, on how you deal with your clients and your candidates. And I really want to thank you for your friendship. It means
thank you, man.
Tremendous amount to me.
Well, thank you for having me on, Vince. And you and I have been through a lot through MRI together. And whatnot, and certainly, I don't know if I should bring up rubbing butts in this conversation, but we've done that together.
Ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't rubbing each other's butts.
No, it was pig butts, but
it was a great barbecue.
I have that picture somewhere of us with those gloves on, and I can remember you and I and Jim Lazar, and I think it was Japan, and our kimonos, and through MRI, you and I have gotten to travel the world together and make great friends. And, certainly Stephanie and I always loved seeing you and Denise at whatever venue we were at.
Thank you very much, Jeff.